Welcome to the next chapter of Company Accounts and Auditing Practices for Company Secretary Executive Program. In this chapter, we'll discuss the corporate restructuring. If you go by the definition of restructuring as such, it says restructuring is a method of changing the organizational structure in order to achieve the strategic goals of an organization or to sharpen the focus on achieving them. So when we say restructure, it could be restructure in the form of amalgamation, or it could be restructure in the form of internal reconstruction, or it could be restructure in the form of separation. But when it comes to our syllabus, we will be studying both amalgamation as well as internal reconstruction. So what do they say? It says changing the organizational structure, that is amalgamation or separation or internal reconstruction, to achieve some strategic goals. Which are these goals then? We'll see that in the next slide. Of an organization, or to sharpen the focus on achieving them. Sometimes your purpose is to achieve strategic goals. Sometimes it is to sharpen the focus on achieving such strategic goals. Sometimes the focus is on achieving strategic goals. Sometimes the objective is to focus on achieving such strategic goals. So let us see those strategic goals which are the objectives of any reconstruction or amalgamation as such. Orderly redirection of the firm's objectives. A firm here refers to companies as well, might have several objectives. If those objectives are not focused, or if there is no proper order in those objectives, then it would be very difficult for any company to focus on them. There should be a proper order. Let's say, for example, we have to do A first, then B, then C. We might have 26 different objectives up to Z, but if you do not know what to do first, then there is no point in having so many objectives. One of the objectives of corporate restructuring could be to achieve these goals in an orderly manner. The second objective is deploying surplus cash from one business to finance profitable growth in another. Take for example Flipkart and Myntra. These two are Indian companies. They were different companies. Now of course Myntra has been acquired or amalgamated into Flipkart. So let's say Myntra has too many ideas as to what it has to do in the field of fashion. Maybe it is to attract new customers, or to retain the existing ones, or to go into different uncharted territories. But it doesn't have the cash it requires to do or fulfill any of these objectives. Whereas there is another company, Flipkart, which deals with many things, and among them fashion is also one of the items. It wants to do several things, but it doesn't have a platform for that. But it has so much of cash that it doesn't know what to do. In such cases, companies come together to use the surplus cash of one company, in this case Flipkart, so as to achieve profitable growth in another, in this case Myntra. That is also one of the objectives of amalgamation. Exploiting interdependence among present or prospective businesses within the corporate portfolio. Sometimes what happens, let's say there are two companies, A and B supplies raw materials to A. There is some interdependence. And in such cases, it doesn't want that company to let go. A company doesn't want to let go B company. So what it does is it acquires the company itself, so that it has in its own corporate portfolio the things which it requires. So tomorrow if someone else acquires B Limited, then it will be difficult for A Limited to procure the raw materials which it requires for manufacturing its own things. For example, Samsung acquired this company called Corning, which manufactures the Gorilla Glass. So Gorilla Glass was manufactured by a third party, and then Samsung acquires it. Why? So it doesn't want to let its competitors acquire it. So it is exploiting that interdependence which is present between Samsung and Corning Glass. Risk reduction. Let's take the example of Facebook and WhatsApp. For Facebook, WhatsApp was a risk. WhatsApp was competing in, not exactly in its territory, but it was almost there. For example, Facebook has Messenger. WhatsApp is in fact a messenger app basically. So now Facebook doesn't want some other company to acquire WhatsApp. It is a risk, a potential threat. So therefore, what did the company do? It acquired WhatsApp so as to reduce the risk. So this is one of the reasons why companies amalgamate. Then we have development of core competencies. For example, there could be some area in which a company wants to concentrate, but it does not have the required tech. So what it does, it acquires the core competencies of another company, which it thinks could be very useful to this company. Apple has done such acquisitions a number of times. In fact, it recently invested in LG so as to develop the display technology. So these are the kind of things which companies do day in and day out. Sometimes it will not be amalgamation, sometimes it could be internal reconstruction as well, sometimes it could be separation. But in this chapter, we will be looking at amalgamation in the nature of merger, amalgamation in the nature of purchase, and internal reconstruction as well. All the three put together are known as corporate restructuring. When it comes to amalgamation in the nature of merger, it is about two companies coming together and forming a new company. Whereas amalgamation in the nature of purchase, it is one company acquiring another company. So both the types of amalgamations are there in our syllabus, and problems could be asked on any of these topics, including internal reconstruction. Sometimes once in a while the internal reconstruction question will be asked in the examination, and these questions will be there for at least 7 to 8 marks. This will be paired with the consolidation question in the exam. Likewise, we can see the slide here, company A and B, and they are both liquidating and forming a new company C. This is usually amalgamation in the nature of merger. A and B company liquidating those two companies and forming a new company called C Limited. And this is another type wherein C company is already there and it is taking over A and B Limited. This could be amalgamation in the nature of purchase as well. Unless we look into the conditions, it's very difficult to say whether it is amalgamation in the nature of purchase or merger. Now let us look into the conditions which needs to be satisfied for any amalgamation to be treated as amalgamation in the nature of merger. There are 5 conditions which needs to be satisfied. These 5 conditions are enumerated according to the Accounting Standard 14, which talks about amalgamation of companies. Which are those 5 conditions now? All the assets and liabilities are taken over by the transferee company. What is a transferee company? Transferee company is nothing but a buying company or a purchasing company, whereas transferor company refers to the seller or the selling companies. So whatever assets are and liabilities are there in selling companies, that is the transferor companies, it should be taken over by the transferee company. So all the assets, we have to understand the importance of the word all there. Everything should be taken over. Shareholders of not less than 90% of the transferor company become shareholders of the transferee company. So let us take the example of A Limited and B Limited. Let's say A Limited is the selling company and B Limited is the purchasing company. Now A Limited will have shareholders and B Limited is the company which might be an existing company or a new company. Once they buy the company, that is A Limited, the shareholders, at least majority of them, 90% of them, should now become the shareholders of B Limited. That is what this condition says. The consideration for amalgamation receivable by those equity shareholders is discharged wholly by issue of equity shares. This consideration is nothing but the purchase consideration. A buying company will pay something in return when it acquires a company, and that consideration should be paid by way of equity shares only, except cash may be paid only in case of fractional shares. So otherwise it should be wholly issued by way of shares only. The business of the transferor company is intended to be carried on after amalgamation by the transferee company. So now let's take the example of Myntra and Flipkart again. What is the business of Myntra? Fashion. What is the business of Flipkart? It has many other businesses including fashion. After it took over Myntra, did it continue the same business? Of course, yes. In such case, this condition is satisfied. Of course, when it comes to Flipkart and Myntra, it is not amalgamation in the nature of merger, but is amalgamation in the nature of purchase, because there the consideration paid included cash as well, apart from fractional shares. But if it has to be treated in amalgamation as amalgamation in the nature of merger, then it should carry out the business of the transferor company even after amalgamation. No adjustment is intended to be made to the book values of the assets and liabilities of the transferor company when they are incorporated in the financial statements of the transferee company, except to ensure uniformity of accounting policies. Let's say A Limited is a selling company and B Limited is the company which is acquiring A Limited. A Limited has plenty of assets like plant and machinery, land and building, and it could be debtors, inventories, etc. Now when B Limited purchases A Limited, then it should not change the book values of various assets or liabilities of A Limited. If that is changed, then it will be violating this particular condition and it would be treated as amalgamation in the nature of purchase. Except to ensure uniformity of accounting policy. Sometimes what happens, there should be uniformity. For example, A Limited is following depreciation method of WDV, whereas B Limited is following depreciation method of straight line method. In such cases, if it wants to follow one single method, there might be some revaluation of assets. Except for that, there cannot be any revaluation of assets and liabilities once they are amalgamated. If all the 5 conditions are satisfied, only then it will be treated as amalgamation in the nature of merger. If not, it will be treated as amalgamation in the nature of purchase. Again, let us look at the types of PC. We can either use the net payments method. Net payments method is where it is given in the problem directly, like how many shares are being issued to the shareholders of X Limited by the purchasing company Y Limited. So what is the cash paid by the purchasing company Y Limited to the shareholders of X Limited? It is directly given in the problem, wherein you need not have to calculate the ratio, etc. Whereas in some cases that would not be mentioned as to what exactly is being given to the shareholders of the selling company. Then we will have to calculate as to what exactly is the amount due to them. So in such cases, we'll have to total the assets. From that, we'll have to deduct the liabilities other than the shareholders' funds, and then we'll have to arrive at something known as net assets. Therefore, that method is known as net assets method. Amalgamation in the nature of merger. With regard to the problems based on amalgamation in the nature of merger, we have to note that there is one subtle difference between amalgamation in the nature of merger and amalgamation in the nature of purchase. We'll have to pass the realization account, shareholders account, and the account of transferee company in the books of transferor company. This is something which is common for both purchase as well as merger. But when it comes to the entries in the case of transferee company, what will happen in case of merger is we will also incorporate the shareholders funds other than share capital, like general reserve, profit and loss account, development fund reserve, capital reserve. These are the reserves which will also be present in the new company, that is the merged company or the transferee company, whereas the same will not be there in case of amalgamation in the nature of purchase. And we will look at the difference between purchase consideration and the share capital. This difference is nothing but the excess or shortage of consideration paid by the transferee company. That difference will be adjusted against the existing reserves of transferor companies in the case of amalgamation in the nature of merger. The following are the abridged balance sheets of K Limited and J Limited as on 31st March 2014. So we have two balance sheets here. Equity share capital of rupees 10 each, 4 lakh and 1 lakh 80. General reserve 5 lakh and 1 lakh. Profit and loss account 3 lakhs and 80,000 credit balance. There is debenture, that is non-current liabilities. Nothing in case of J Limited. Then creditors, or now the name of that is trade payables. That is the new name according to Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. 2 lakhs and 1 lakh. Bills payable. Then we have fixed assets, investments, current assets. That's it. So 18 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 18 lakhs, 5 lakhs. So let us look at the adjustments now. The Board of Directors of K Limited approved to take over J Limited as on 30th September 2014. So one company is taking over another company. Find out the ratio of exchange of shares on the basis of the book value. So we have to first calculate PC, and how is that PC discharged by way of shares. That number of shares, that is the exchange ratio, can be found out once we calculate the PC. In this case, nothing is mentioned, therefore we'll have to consider net assets method to calculate the purchase consideration. So first of all, let us look at the assets position. We have various assets and liabilities. Assets, fixed assets, current assets and investments, or total it. Then same thing with J Limited. From that, deduct the liabilities which are other than shareholders' funds, because shareholders' funds cannot be deducted from the assets, otherwise we'll be left with nothing. Therefore, we'll have to first calculate the net assets, which is nothing but assets minus liabilities except this shareholders funds. So which comes to, in this case, 12 lakhs, and in the other company J Limited 3,60,000. Now if you look at this, we know that K Limited is taking over J Limited. That means K Limited has to pay 3,60,000 to J Limited, the shareholders of J Limited. So but how many shares should it issue now to satisfy this PC of 3,60,000? Very simple. We know that the intrinsic value, first of all let us find out the intrinsic value. So the 12 lakhs is the total value of net assets in case of K Limited, but K Limited has 40,000 equity share. So what would be the per share worth of the company? So it is very simple. Total net assets, that is 12 lakhs, divided by number of shares, that is 40,000, will give us per share worth of K Limited. So per share worth is 30 rupees. So if one share's value is 30, so how many shares should K Limited issue to satisfy 3,60,000? So if we do simple cross multiplication, we will get the answer. The answer is 12,000 shares. Therefore, net assets of transferor company J Limited divided by intrinsic value of transferee company. Transferor company is nothing but the seller, transferee is the buying company. So therefore 3,60,000 divided by 30 intrinsic value will give us the number of shares to be issued to shareholders of J Limited. So what is the ratio of exchange then? If you have 12,000 shares, you will get 18,000 shares. That is, if you further simplify that, it would be 2:3. So we have to write the conclusion as well. Even in the exam, if such a kind of question is asked, please write the conclusion like this. That is, ratio of exchange of shares is 2:3. Because though this is what is important, we still have to write the proper conclusion if we have to get full marks. So if the question is asked for 5 marks, if you just solve and leave it here, 12,000 shares, you will get maybe 4 marks. But whereas if you write the conclusion as well, you will get 5 out of 5 for sure. Let us move on to the next problem. In this case, there are two balance sheets, X Limited and Y Limited, as on 31st December 2016. We have shareholders funds, 100 rupees per share, general reserve, development reserve fund, profit and loss account, 10% debentures, bills payable, trade creditors amounting to 1,73,000 and 68,000 respectively. Then moving on to the asset side, we have land and building and plant and machinery for the non-current assets, stock, that is inventory, debtors, that is trade receivables, and cash for the current assets, all totaling to 1,73,000 and 68,000 again. Moving on to the adjustments, we have X Limited and Y Limited agreed to amalgamate and form a new company called Z Limited, which takes over the assets and liabilities of both the companies. So that means in this case, X Limited and Y Limited both are called transferor companies because they are the selling companies, and Z Limited will be the transferee company, that is the buying company. The purchase consideration is fixed at 1,20,000 and 60,000 respectively for X Limited and Y Limited. So we need not have to calculate PC, it is already given fixed. The PC is to be discharged by Z Limited by way of fully paid equity shares, only by way of shares. To the debenture holders of X Limited, debentures of the same amount and denomination are to be issued by Z Limited. Prepare ledger accounts, journal entries, and show the balance sheet of Z Limited after amalgamation. Now, before we proceed towards the ledger accounts, let us first look at the journal entries in the books of transferor companies, that is the selling companies. In this case, first let us look at X Limited's books. Journal entries in the books of X Limited, that is selling company. So we know that we have to nullify all the assets which are there in the balance sheet of X Limited. So we have assets like land and building, plant and machinery, stock, debtors and cash. All these in the books have debit balance, and these assets will have to be now brought down to zero. If we have debit balance and it has to be now made zero, the only way is to credit all the assets. So therefore we are following the asset rule, which says if there is any decrease in asset, credit it. All these assets are now getting decreased, therefore we are crediting the same. So credit by their respective book values and pass all the adjustments by way of realization account. Realization account debit to credit land and building, to plant and machinery, to stocks, to debtors, to cash. So now we have balance in realization account to the extent of 1,73,000. Likewise, nullify all the liabilities always. Liabilities will normally have credit balance, and if there is any decrease in credit balance, we will have to debit them. Likewise, in this case also we are decreasing or we are reducing the amount in liabilities account to the extent of 0. If credit balances have to be brought down to 0, it has to be debited. Therefore, debit debentures, debit bills payable and debit trade creditors and credit realization account. The exact reverse of the previous entry. In this case, assets were brought down, whereas in this case, liabilities are brought down. Therefore, liabilities have to be debited, here assets have to be credited. So now we transfer everything to realization account 33,000. If we notice here, we have only transferred assets and liabilities which are other than shareholders' funds. We haven't touched the shareholders' funds yet, because these shareholders' funds, mainly equity share capital, general reserve, developmental fund reserve, profit and loss account, in this company, that is X Limited, belong to equity shareholders account. Therefore, whatever balance is there, whatever credit balance is there, it has to be transferred to equity shareholders account since it belongs to them. So again, liability side, it will have credit balance. If credit balances have to be made 0, it has to be debited. So decrease in liability being debited. To equity shareholders account, this is now a temporary liability, therefore increase in liability has to be credited. Now that we have transferred all the assets and liabilities including the shareholders account, what should we do next? We already know what is the PC due. PC due in this case is 1,20,000. From whom is the PC due? Z Limited. So Z Limited owes PC to us, that is the shareholders of X Limited. Therefore, we will have to treat Z Limited as asset, and if there is any increase in asset, it has to be debited. And this will go towards the realization account, because once again, in case of amalgamation, everything has to be routed through realization account, and also we have to note that this becomes the liability since it has to be ultimately given to shareholders account. Therefore, credit realization account 1,20,000, 1,20,000. The next step is to calculate the total or the balance the ledger of realization account. We can directly see here itself before we proceed towards ledgers. We have a debit of 1,73,000, we have a credit of 33, and a further credit of 1,20,000. 120 plus 33, 153, and debit of 173. That means the debit side is greater by 20,000. 1,73,000 is the debit balance of realization account. 1,53,000 is the credit balance of realization account. Therefore, debit side is greater. If the debit side is greater, we will have a debit balance. By how much is the debit side greater? By 20,000. So this is the amount which is nothing but loss on realization. If there is a debit balance in realization account, then it will be loss. If there is a credit balance, then it would have been profit. So whatever loss or profit it is has to be now borne by shareholders account or shareholders themselves. Therefore, loss on realization, that is 20,000, is now transferred to equity shareholders account. So now the credit side total also matches the debit side total in case of realization account. 1,73,000 equals 1,73,000. So now how are we discharging this PC of 1,20,000? Very simple, by way of equity shares. We have passed the due entry here. Now we will have to pass the discharge entry. PC discharge entry. So how are we discharging? By equity shares in Z Limited. So Z Limited has now issued shares in Z Limited to the shareholders of X Limited. Therefore, Z Limited's account gets credited because their asset is now getting decreased since their liability is already discharged by way of issue of equity shares. This is a temporary asset for the company since it is still holding it. Ultimately, it will be transferred to shareholders account. So once you transfer these to shareholders account, that asset will come down. Therefore, credit that asset. The asset rule says what? If there is any decrease in asset, it shall be credited. These are the modern rules, by the way. I have already explained the same in the basics of accounting. In the first chapter, that is. Then debit equity shareholder account. Equity shareholder account has to be debited because their liability is also getting decreased. We had to give them 1,20,000 worth of consideration. We are discharging that. Therefore, if there is any decrease in liability, debit the same. Now that we have seen the journal entries in the books of one selling company, that is X Limited, we can see that it will be the same in case of Y Limited as well. Here also we have to transfer all the assets. Transfer means all those assets which have a debit balance will have to be credited. Credit all these assets and debit realization account. Likewise, we have liabilities as well. Since liabilities will have credit balance, we will have to make them zero. Therefore, debit the liabilities and credit realization account. 8,000. 68,000 minus 8,000. The balance in this case is 60,000. Now we have debit balance of 68,000 and a credit balance of 8,000. So remaining debit balance is 60,000. So that is now satisfied by way of PC. This is the PC due entry. Z Limited account debit to realization account. It's a temporary asset since we have to receive some from them, and realization account is a liability since whatever we receive from them should be transferred to shareholders. Before that, we also saw that shareholders account will also get the share capital of the company. Whatever share capital was there, that is credit balance, has now come down. Therefore, it is debited and sent to equity shareholders account. So this is PC due. Likewise, now let us look at PC discharge entry. How is this PC discharged? This PC is discharged by way of equity shares in Z Limited. So it's a temporary asset once again, and this temporary asset of Z Limited has now come down, therefore credit it. They have discharged their PC, therefore whatever debit we had given is now nullified. In its place, we have a new asset, equity shares in Z Limited. Ultimately, this will also be nullified because these equity shares belong to the shareholders of Y Limited. So therefore, credit equity shares in Z Limited, asset getting reduced, credit, and liability getting reduced, debit, because we are supposed to give them equity shares. We are supposed to pay them something in return for selling their company. So this is how we pass the journal entries in the books of selling company, or in other words, in the books of transferor companies. Now let us look at the ledger accounts in the books of transferor companies. The same journal entries will now be posted to respective ledgers. So let us first prepare the realization account. We have to use the wordings debit and credit on the left hand and right hand side, DRCR in fact in short. So here we have to notice that this is a problem on realization. If we go back to the problem, so we can notice that we have balance sheets of X Limited and Y Limited. So what we have to essentially do is we have to nullify all these assets. That is, we will have to make the balance sheet zero. Nullify the assets as well as liabilities other than shareholders' funds. The shareholders' funds have to be untouched, but the remaining assets and liabilities will have to be made zero by transferring the same to realization account. So all these assets will have to be made zero now. If you look at this, land and building has 30,000 balance, plant and machinery 1,10,000, stock, debtors, cash, they have their respective balances. So all assets will have debit balance, whereas all these liabilities will have credit balance. If you have to make them 0, debit them. If you have to make these assets 0, credit the same. So once you are able to do so, we will have none of these assets or liabilities in the books. And with regard to these shareholders funds, it will have to be transferred to equity shareholders account. That's how we will make these accounts 0. Now let us go back to the ledger. So we know that all the assets have to be credited, therefore the entry would be debit realization account to various assets taken over. That is to land and building, to plant and machinery, to inventory, to trade receivables, to cash. We have used the respective amounts since nothing should be changed from the book values. So 30,000, 1,10,000, 16, 14, 3. If you go back to the problem, you can notice we have the same amounts, 1,73,000. Here also we will have the same 1,73,000. Since this is amalgamation in the nature of merger, everything will be in book value. Even in case of purchase, when it comes to realization account, even there it will be in terms of book values only. Anyway, moving on. The same thing has to be done for Y Limited. We'll have to transfer all their all their assets to realization account. Debit realization to land and building, to plant and machinery, to stock, to debtors, to cash. Likewise, as I said here, if you see, all these assets have credit balance, therefore it has to be debited. So these assets, liabilities are now debited and realization account is credited. Therefore it is written on the credit side of realization account. So debit debentures, debit bills payable, debit trade creditors, debit all these liabilities and credit realization account. Therefore it is on the credit side. Likewise, we will have to also pass an entry for PC due. What is the entry for PC due? Very simple. Debit the transferee company's account and credit realization account. So in the realization account, it will appear on the credit side by transferee company, in this case Z Limited. So whatever is the PC due, 1,20,000 and 60,000, both the figures are given in the question itself. Therefore we need not to worry. We can simply use the same. Now that we have nullified all the assets as well as liabilities and also passed the entry for PC due, we can balance the ledger. In this case, we can notice that in case of Y Limited, it is a self-balancing account because both the asset side total and the liability side total are matching on their own. There is no balance left. Whereas in case of X Limited, there is a debit balance of 20,000. That is, the debit side is greater compared to the credit side. Therefore, this debit balance is written on the credit side, which is nothing but loss. If there is any debit balance in realization account, it only means loss. If it's a credit balance, it means profit on realization. In both the cases, such loss or profit will be transferred to shareholders account. Therefore, in this case, this loss is transferred to shareholders account. Moving on, we have Z Limited, that is purchasing company account, debit, credit again. So very simple, we'll have to just transfer this entry here. In this case, it is by Z Limited. Here it will be to realization, 1,20,000 and 60,000. Likewise, this is the PC due. So how are we discharging the PC? It is mentioned in the problem that everything is by way of equity shares. So the entry will be equity shares in Z Limited account, debit to Z Limited account. 1,20,000, 1,20,000. Once again, it is a self-balancing ledger. Which is the next ledger then? Equity shareholders account. So all the equity shareholders funds will be transferred to equity shareholders account. Now if you look at this problem, we have equity shareholders funds here. These are the shareholders funds and these have to be transferred to shareholders account. So let us go back to the solution now. So you can notice everything is now transferred to shareholders. we will have credit balances in these accounts. Therefore, to nullify them, we'll have to debit it. So, debit equity share capital, debit general reserve, debit development fund reserve, debit P&L account, and credit equity share capital. Therefore, it is written on the credit side of equity shareholders account. And this is the amount transferred to the equity shareholders. But what about the amount due to them by way of PC? That they are realizing by way of equity shares in Z Limited. So, equity shareholders account debit to equity shares in Z Limited, and equity shareholders account debit to equity shares in Z Limited for both X and Y Limited. Likewise, there is this balance of 20,000 which is nothing but loss on account of realization transferred from realization account. That is also transferred here. So, it is just reflecting the same entry in equity shareholders account. Now, before we go into the journal entries in the books of transferee company, that is Z Limited, or in other words purchasing company, let us look at the excess or shortage of consideration paid to these two companies, that is X Limited and Y Limited. So, let us start with PC paid. In this case, Z Limited paid 1,20,000 to X Limited, and to Y Limited rupees 60,000. And from that we will deduct share capital in the balance sheet. So, what is the total share capital of X Limited? 1 lakh. So, deduct that, and likewise from Y Limited deduct share capital 60,000. So, once we deduct 60,000 from the PC paid 60,000, we are left with nothing. So, in case of Y Limited, there is no excess or shortage of consideration paid. Whereas when it comes to X Limited, there is a difference of 20,000. That difference of 20,000 is the excess consideration paid, because share capital is 1 lakh, whereas we paid 1,20,000. So now this 20,000 has to be set off against the existing reserves of X Limited or Y Limited. So we have certain reserves, for example, general reserve. What is the balance in general reserve? 34,000. Against that, set off this 20,000. So after setting off 20,000 against the general reserve of 34,000, we are now left with a balance of 14,000. This is the balance of GR which needs to be shown in Z Limited's account. It should be noted here that when it comes to amalgamation in the nature of merger, all the shareholders' funds will ultimately be transferred and shown in the transferee company as well. That is, in this case, Z Limited, except for share capital account. So likewise, in this case, we will show general reserve, P&L account, development fund reserve, etc. if they are there in X Limited and Y Limited, after adjusting for any excess or shortage of consideration. So in this case, we had such excess or shortage of consideration, precisely excess in this case. Therefore, we adjusted that, and we are now left with a balance of 14,000 in GR account. Now let us proceed towards the journal entries in the books of buying company. So when we buy two companies, we are purchasing businesses, therefore debit business purchase account. So 1,80,000, that is 1,20,000 plus 60,000. Credit liquidators of X Limited and credit liquidator of Y Limited. So that means we owe this much money to liquidators of X and Y Limited. Likewise, we will have to now incorporate various assets and liabilities of both the companies put together. We have land and building only from X Limited, therefore we are only considering X Limited's asset. So when we are incorporating various assets, their balance will increase in the books of Z Limited. If assets balance increases, then it should be debited according to asset rule. Therefore, debit all these: debit land and building, debit plant and machinery, both X and Y, X and Y, X and Y, X and Y. So all these assets are now debited. Likewise, we will debit the liabilities as well. 10% debentures in X Limited. Only in X Limited we have debentures. There is no debentures in Y Limited. Bills payable X and Y. Trade creditors X and Y. Development fund reserve only X Limited. Profit and loss account. General. This would be our general reserve account. This 14,000 is nothing but the 14,000 which we calculated here. That 14,000 is now incorporated here. If there was no excess consideration or shortage of consideration, this general reserve would have been credited to the extent it was there, that is 34,000. But from that 34 we removed the excess consideration 20 and we are now crediting only the remaining 14,000. Then P&L account we have created 2,000 whatever is there, and ultimately we will have to then credit business purchase account 1,80,000. So whatever we purchase, there is a temporary liable asset which we have created here, increase in asset being debit. So now it gets credited because we have incorporated various assets and liabilities by way of business purchase. Now that we have incorporated the assets and liabilities, we will have to discharge the PC. So to whom do we owe the money? To the liquidator of X Limited and liquidator of Y Limited. So since their liabilities are getting discharged or decreasing, so it has to be credited. If there is any decrease in liability, credit it. And issue them fresh equity shares. So if there is any increase in capital or increase in liability, it has to be credited. Therefore, credit equity share capital account. And lastly, we have debentures as well. It is mentioned that 10% debenture holders of X Limited will get same amount and same denomination debentures. So therefore, cancel the existing liability. This liability will be cancelled and in its place, we will issue fresh debentures of Z Limited. So this liability is getting decreased, therefore debit, and a fresh liability is getting increased, therefore credit. Liability rule, as we know, says what? If there is any increase, credit. If there is any decrease, debit. With this entry, we have now looked at all the journal entries in the books of purchasing company as well. Now let us move on to the balance sheet of Z Limited. It's very simple. Whatever we have noted down here, that is in the journal entries, the same thing will now be transferred to balance sheet. For example, if you look here, equity share capital of 1,80,000, we have equity share capital of 1,80,000. Then comes the assets and liabilities. Let us look at the shareholders funds first. Reserves 14,000, P&L 2, development reserve fund 4. The same thing will be shown here as well. Reserves 14, P&L 2, development reserve fund 4,000. And we just now saw that debentures were issued after cancelling the existing one. Therefore, show debentures of 20,000. Apart from this, we have two non-current liabilities, that is bills payable and trade payables. So 5,500 and 15,500. So we have incorporated all the liabilities. Likewise, let us incorporate the assets as well. We have land and building 30, plant and machinery 160, inventory 24. Land and building 30, inventory 160 and plant and machinery 160 and inventory 24. Likewise, let us look at the remaining two assets, that is debtors and cash 23 and 4. We have 23 and 4 here. So the total of both the companies, the total of both the sides is now 2,41,2,41.